So today I'm going to be walking you through how to make the caramel apple tarts out of the mung bean flour. So first off, you're going to need 200 grams of mung beans. Put them in the food processor. You should get about 185 grams of flour and then about 25 grams of the little granules that are left over. Put them to the side because we're going to need them later to go on top. Now, then we're going to need a tablespoon of coconut oil, 2 apples, preferably, a small kind of size. If you've got a big one, just one. A little bit of apple goes a long way. 200 grams of brown sugar. So that brown sugar is not only going to be made into caramel, but that's also going to go into the actual tart base, just to add a little bit of extra sweetness to it. And the 25 grams of the mung bean granules to go on top. Okay, so I have my pastry done. This was used from last time, so I'm just going to keep reusing this, but all it is the 185 grams of mung bean flour. Okay, so to assemble the tart, first you want to make your pastry. I've already made my pastry just to save time, but I'm just going to quickly walk you through it. So all I did was in a bowl, I put the mung bean flour, 185 grams. I used the tablespoon of coconut oil. Don't heat it up, just keep it cold. And a tablespoon of the brown sugar. You should be left with about 180 grams, 175. It's not crucial if it's 5 grams there or 5 grams less. It'll still work out exactly the same. Literally, you can either knead it through yourself or you can use a KitchenAid. I use a KitchenAid because it's a lot faster for me. So I put all those things in a bowl, put them together, and come out with this. Next, we want to start making our caramel apple. So I've got a pan on the stove. I've cut up 1 piece of apple. Basically, you want to cut it up into smallish cubes, take out the seeds. So I'm just cutting it in half and then half again and then into 3. Really nice and easy and simple. Watch your fingers. Leave your apple seeds and stuff like that to the side. I'm actually going to make that into a jam or a chutney. So what I do is I just tap out the seeds and then make that into a chutney because there's nothing wrong with that. Again, all about trying to reduce waste. Yeah, especially in these times, I have the time to. Perfect. Awesome. Now I'm going to chuck all this apple, my brown sugar, into a pan. I'm going to let it reduce, let the sugar dissolve within the apple, and it's going to start caramelizing, and I'll see you back then. Okay, so now my caramel's done. It should look something like this. Still bubbling away, so it's still quite hot. So what we want to do is put that to the side, let that rest, because the apple is actually going to leach a bit of water while it rests. So we just want that to sit, cool down a little bit. We don't want it to cool down completely because we still want to be able to malleate it. But yeah, just let it cool down a little bit. So those, that apple is going to leach that water, and it's actually going to make the caramel softer. So instead of having like a hard caramel in your tart, you can have a nice soft one because of the apple and the water. So it doesn't need anything else. Just put that to the side. Now we're going to line our tarts. Now, I personally like doing it this way. It's completely up to you. First, we're going to spray it with a little bit of oil. You can spray it with you can put a little bit of butter in there, either or, but I do it with just a bit of spray oil. Just get it in there so it doesn't stick. Then we're going to take a bit of your tart base. So what I do is I just put it in there and press it in. So basically, you want the tart shell not to be too thick. You want it to be about, I'll show you in a second, but basically if you've got these little knobs, basically you want it to almost see the knobs, like the little razors in there. You want to be able to see those. I'll show you what I mean in a second. But can kind of see, so you can kind of see, where are we? Here here you can kind of almost see the little bit of black. So that's basically what you want, because it is going to puff out a little bit, and something like, you just don't want it to be too thick, especially with something that's this mung bean pastry, because it can be a little bit overpowering if you add too much. So I'm just working that into the corners, making sure it's, you know, as thick as I want it to be. It's almost like 1/2 centimetre thick. That's basically what you want. Make sure the base is nice and flat. Okie dokie. So now we've got a little bit over the edge. We want that because inevitably it's going to shrink a little bit. We don't want it too high. If you want it to shrink a little bit and be a little less prominent, you can always cut that off to make it a little bit cleaner. I like the rustic look. It's basically how people describe my cooking, is a little bit rustic. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some baking paper in this, put some, you can either use weighted balls for baking for pastry, or I use rice or lentils, leftover lentils, and then I chuck them in the oven, and my oven is set to 180 degrees. This will be about 6-7 minutes just for this one tart, but if you're doing a batch of 6, which is the amount this recipe makes, it'll probably take about 10. Okay, so this has come out of the oven now. It's brown a little bit on top, it's shrunk down a little bit. I've already taken off the parchment paper and the rice. That was keeping it nice and secure down there. So what I'm going to do now, this is cooled down a little bit, just enough, but you can see how it's leached the water, and it's become, the sugar's now become like more like a syrup. So that's going to be a really nice caramel flavour. So what I'm going to do is just going to chuck this into here, and then I'm going to put it back in the oven. Awesome. So we want a big chunk of that apple, and then we want to make sure that we get a bit of that syrup as well. Perfect. Awesome. So that'll be perfect. Now I'm just going to add little modules that didn't make it through the blender, just to add a little extra crisp on top. Perfect. That's ready to be finished off and baked all the way through. Okay, so this has just come out of the oven, so it's really nice and hot. So as you can see, it's all done. We have a little bit of spillage, but that's completely fine. That was just from me. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck this into the fridge, and then we're going to have a look at it in a bit. Okay, so this is now chilled. It is cold enough for me to be able to take it out of the tart shell. It's still warm because I like to serve it warm, so I'm just going to show you how I serve it. Basically, I've got a nice black plate, contrasting, so my tart shells have like a little disc down here that you can push up. So that's all I do. And then I get a knife and go underneath. Sorry, I'm just trying to show you as well, put you a little closer. So just go underneath and then slide it onto the plate. Perfect. Just wipe my hands real quick. Awesome. So this is how I would serve it. So we've got that there, get that back up there. Perfect. So nice black plate. I've got a little bit of my caramel sauce that I use in the coffee, so this will look lovely on top of the plate. So I just drizzle a little bit of that, and it complements well because it's a different type of caramel as well. It's a white sugar based caramel with a bit of icing sugar, and then we have it. There's your tart.